So do you consider yourself as a fluent English speaker? If yes, then watch this video till very end. If no, then again watch this video till the very end, because in this video I'm going to cover each and everything that how someone can be a fluent English speaker in 2025. I'm going to break down all those aspects into the 5 simple terms, so you can be able to be more fluent in the English if you are already, otherwise you'd be knowing the basic that how this dynamic work. So without wasting our time, let's get start this. So for very first thing we need to understand first, before diving deep into this fluency thing, that how someone can achieve that, let's understand that what fluency means. So according to the Cambridge dictionary, it says that if someone is able to communicate their thoughts, emotion into words without having any hesitation, they can read it very well, they can write it somewhere without being forcefully thinking that much about words, grammar and all, then he or she must be considered as a fluent speaker, right? So if you are someone who are coming into this category, very good, watch this video. Again I'm saying that this video is going to be helpful at all. If you do not have those things in your mind, if you are a beginner at this thing, so this video is going to give you 5 simple steps to cover all those fluency aspect in this video. So let's talk straightforward for the first thing, that is learning the vocabulary. Now I had been so many times talked about this vocabulary that people do not much emphasize on advanced vocabulary while they are learning this language. They wanted to be fluent, but here I'm putting this point at the very first number. The reason behind is that here I'm not only focused on the advanced vocabulary. What do I mean with understanding and learning vocabulary on the very first step is something coming from that out of context. You have to learn this vocabulary. You do not need to jump onto the advanced thing. I'm not saying just you start cramming all those words from a dictionary from the page one. No, don't do that. That's not going to work. Even you going to forget all those words after all. Just two basic stuff what I'm telling you. Start with the basic words. Whatever you are seeing surrounding you, you must be knowing their vocabulary, their words, English words for that. Suppose you are being into your room. Now you must be knowing each and every product putting out there onto the table, onto your chair. You must be knowing everything. Even you are in a kitchen, try to know that how we can pronunciate this in English. This is the very first step I wanted to emphasize in order to be fluent in this language, right? I'm not saying you go and learn this advanced vocabulary out there at the beginning. No, don't do that. That is not going to work for you at all. So start with the very basic words. Whatever the things you see surrounding to yourself, start with that. Try to know that how we can pronunciate that particular object in English. That start with there, right? And eventually once you understood all the basic aspect, all the basic objects surrounded by you, now you can go a little bit advanced level. You can go to the intermediate words, that how you can prefer choosing those words instead of using the simple words, right? So I talked about the understanding and learning the vocabulary, because how we can talk is something coming from a sentence, and how sentence is formed with words. So ultimately, if you do not have enough words to express your feeling towards, then you cannot even consider as a speaker. For fluent speaker, you must have a good vocabulary out there. I'm not talking about advanced. Again, I'm emphasizing here, I'm talking about simple words onwards to begin this journey onwards. Okay, so now coming to the second step, second kind of easy step to learn and master this English fluency in 2025 is that you have to learn this language by not your by eyes, by your ears. What does I mean? That learning something by your eyes just means you are just reading something. Some people, what they do only, they just start reading a book and they think that by reading only they can learn this language efficiently. No, this is not practical method. I know that there are people who can do this, so but practically speaking, this is something again comes from listening. Even studies says that a psychological study had been also done onto this particular aspect, and it says that a good listener is always been a good speaker, right? So if you are reading some book, rather reading it quietly, try to read it loudly. So what you are doing, whatever you are reading this time on a book, you are trying to read it loudly, and this words structure of the sentence you gonna to come into your ears, and by that it's gonna to come into your head subconsciously. Now it, because you had already been pronunciate these words for so many times, so when again you gonna to use, you wanted to use that, you can use it in a very natural way. You do not need to force. And what I talked earlier about fluency is something what it comes naturally. You do not need to force it at all, right? So try to learn this language by your ears, by listening more, even the reading is important, but while reading also you try to pronunciate in a very louder manner so that you can listen those things by your ears as well, correct? Talking about the third step, that is focus on idioms and phrases. Now I know that mostly people will say, hey look, it's enough. I'm not going to learn any more new idioms and phrases. I'm not saying to learn idioms and phrases which is quite new to you, which I'm again not saying that go and learn those idioms and phrases from a book, try to scram it. No, don't do that. Learn the idioms and phrases with the context. Suppose you are just being into a conversation, now you know that in Hindi I could say this thing, but in English or in the language you are try to speak in that, how I can pronunciate this in a form of idioms and phrases, right? So this way, when you learn something with a context, with particular meaning, that where and how you can use it, then definitely it gonna to you can remember this for a long time than just forgetting it, because knowledge is more about using. And there is well said about knowledge and speaking and words, everything is said that if you are using it then fine, otherwise you're going to lose it. So this is very said that use it or lose it in context of knowledge. So try to particularly know the particular idioms and phrase with the context, that when and where you are going to say it, and then try to use it more and more, and this way you can be the very natural with the idioms and phrases out there. I hope I make some sense. Okay, now coming towards the fourth part, as speaking, I cannot ignore the speaking part, because here we are trying to be fluent speaker. Again, I'm gonna to recall the same quote there: if you wanted to learn to swim, you have to come to the water, right? What does it mean in the context of learning this language fluently? Is that ultimately we wanted to speak, so we cannot ignore the importance of speaking. By speaking, we cannot, without speaking we cannot even supposed to be a average speaker. How we can thinking that we would be fluent, right? So speaking is very much concerned. So in starting, don't be emphasized on being perfect at all. Don't be think that once I would be knowing everything, idioms and phrases, good advanced vocabulary, then I would be starting to speak. No, start with whatever you have, and let this speaking is the by part of your grammar, by part of your idioms and phrases, by part of your new vocabulary, advanced vocabulary words, right? So speaking is very much important. So why I'm again emphasizing that if you wanted to be better at something, so start doing that, and in between, by the process goes on, you learn that how you can do more better into that, right? Betterment is already been increased in between. But if you have the like mindset that once I would be perfect, there is no perfect time coming for you. So start right now. This is 2025, and that is why I'm making this video out there, because this is the beginning. While you are ready to practice all those things what I'm gonna to tell you, if you can practice those things for at least 21 days, it is going to inculcate in your habit, and you going to make it for true for yourself only. Okay, let's come to the last but not the least topic, that is pronunciation. This is the final fifth step to be master of this fluency in English. I know that pronunciation is with concern, that people often misjudge it and they do not want it to work more, because they say I do not want it to look like American, right? I do not want an American accent. I do not want a British accent. I know and I accept that there is always been an abbreviation called MTI, Mother Tongue Influence. I'm not saying that you have to overcome this, but once you know that how to pronunciate a word correctly out there, that is gonna to be more beautify your the way of speaking, right? Beautification is always been there by the pronunciation, because here if you know that how grammatically you are being correct, how what kind of words you are using, that is going to give you enough confidence. But if your pronunciation is being also correct there, that is the cherry onto the top, right? So being a little bit also worried and focused on your pronunciation part, once you had been covered all those aspects of knowing the words correct, idioms and phrases, and learning by your listening more than just reading those things. So this way you're gonna to make it true for yourself. So here I'm just gonna to summarize all those things what I tell in this video out there. So start with learning the basic vocabulary, whatever the things surrounded by you, try to understand the English word for that, start with that only, and then eventually try to know the advanced vocabulary out there. And second, I talked about that how you can learn this language by listening more rather than just going and reading with a quiet mouth. No, don't do that. That is not being effective method to learn this language. And third, I talked about you have to also inculcate the using the basic and the contextual idioms and phrases in your conversation, that is going to give you a more engaging way to converse with someone. And fourth, I talked about the speaking part, because you cannot even ignore this thing. If you are feeling that without tried speaking you are gonna to be fluent speaker, then you are totally wrong. Don't mess up with that. Know the importance of speaking and try to speak at daily basis. This is how you're gonna to learn this language in 2025. And fifth, I also talked and emphasized the importance of pronunciation, because without pronunciation your speaking is not felt polished. So be there and keep your practice regularly, put your efforts out there. Definitely you're going to make it true for yourself. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.